Edgar Wright, the person responsible for the TV sitcom Spaced, who later took it on to make movies such as A Fistful of Fingers, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and eventually The World's End. And another movie he was ready to put into production was Ant-Man, the movie which he's been working on since 2003, since he pitched the idea to Marvel. He had been spending years adding on to it and adding ideas until he was done in 2011, and then Simon Pegg, the co-worker of a lot of the movies he makes, had stated that it was daring, funny, and hugely exciting. One can only assume what this means. If you've seen Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, you'll know that Edgar Wright seems to know what he's doing, and that he seems competent enough to make a superhero movie, given his prior knowledge.
We are Sex Bob, and we're here to make you think about death and get sad and stuff!
And with Simon Pegg's seal of approval, this can only mean a good movie, right? I mean, Simon Pegg's been working with him for years, and he helped make the Cornetto trilogy, but without Edgar Wright's help and charm to it, it wouldn't have felt right. And that's one of the reasons why Edgar Wright is pretty necessary in making Ant-Man. Edgar Wright had been working on this for years, casting people who he felt would do well in the characters, making test footage, acting out action scenes, choreographing things, planning everything to make sure that the movie would be perfect. And with his direction, everything seems fine. Nothing but high hopes, right? It's an upcoming movie by the director who is yet to disappoint us, making a movie which he's cared about so much, and everything seems fine. Until he's canned from the project. Well, why? This is making no sense. Edgar Wright had been working on this for a decade and spending so much time and effort into it, and one of the main reasons they were making the movie was because of his creative vision and the fact that they knew that he would be able to execute it in a way which would feel right. Bear in mind, this wasn't someone that was hand-picked. The reason Edgar Wright was directing this was because he cared about the project. He was the one that pitched the idea. And the reason he pitched the idea was that he was a huge fan of Ant-Man. He cared about the project and was overly invested in making it. He wasn't hand-picked. If you're a fan of Edgar Wright and you know anything about Edgar Wright, you know he's someone that has integrity. In fact, one of the reasons he didn't want to continue Spaced after season 2 was because he didn't care about the project, and while there was an overwhelming amount of support by the fans, he just simply didn't want to do it because it would feel fake and disingenuous. So we can easily gather that he isn't someone that does stuff just because he was given money to do it and because people support him. The reason he was doing this was because he cared about the project. As I've stated so many times, it was abundantly clear that he was someone who cared about the project and that he was someone there that actually had fucking integrity. Basically, what they've done is taken an idea that someone had been working on for a decade and adding ideas on, working so hard to adapt something which he truly cared about, only to have it snatched from him and replaced by another director. This is just stupid. They're removing the reason they were making the movie to begin with. What we were promised was another Marvel movie which was action-packed but kind of had an Edgar Wright slant to it. And what we're gonna get is a half-arsed attempt to try and recreate that. Remember, he didn't want to make this a trilogy or a sequel or a series. He didn't even want to make anything other than just the standalone movie, just like the rest of his filmography. He wasn't doing this as a cash cow, he was doing it because he cared about the movie. It wasn't going to be anything different to what he already had. Good movies. But instead, fuck that. Let's keep restricting him and giving him more cuts and cuts and cuts until he just decides to fucking leave. And then we'll replace it with a director who will essentially make the movie just a little bit more sloppy and a little bit more shit. And that'll essentially be Ant-Man for you. If you're gonna hire a director for that creative vision, yet when they supply you with that creative vision, only then to spit on it, what's the point of having them on to begin with?